All right, let's just jump right in. For so long, we've all been taught to think about food in one way, as fuel. Calories in, calories out. But what if that's just like half the picture? What if every single bite you take is actually a set of instructions? Really specific messages being sent directly to your cells. That's what we're going to unpack today. This idea of seeing your plate not just as energy, but as pure information.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly frames the stakes, doesn't it? Every meal, every snack, it's a decision. You're either making a deposit into your health account or you're making a withdrawal. The idea that there's no neutral ground is, well, it's pretty powerful. And once you start to see food that way, it's kind of impossible to unsee it.
So let's start with the most basic instruction food gives our bodies, the instruction for energy. But to really get it, we've got to move past just counting calories and start looking at what's actually happening on the inside.
Now here's something really interesting. For a ton of people, the biggest energy problem they have isn't a lack of calories. It's a deep, nagging fatigue. You know the kind I'm talking about? The kind of tired where even a full night's sleep doesn't seem to make a dent? Well, that's usually not a calorie problem. It's an information problem. It could be your body sending you a signal that it's missing a key piece of information, like iron, which it needs to carry oxygen around. Without enough of it, you're going to feel wiped out, no matter how much you eat.
This brings us to a much smarter way to think about food for energy. Forget looking at protein per 100 grams. That can be super misleading. Instead, let's look at protein per calorie. This metric just cuts right through all the noise. It tells you how much actual protein you're getting for the amount of energy you're taking in. It's the true measure of protein density.
And this chart illustrates the point perfectly. I mean, look at peanut butter. Per 100 grams, it looks like a protein powerhouse, right? 25 grams. But, and this is a big but, it's so high in fat that those 100 grams are packing almost 600 calories. So for every 100 calories of peanut butter you eat, you're only getting about 4 grams of protein. Now look at chicken breast. For the same 100 calories, you're getting around 19 grams of protein. That is a massive difference in protein density.
And this idea gets even clearer when we look at some other common protein sources. Shrimp is an absolute rock star here at 24 grams of protein per 100 calories. Turkey breast is right up there too. But then you see salmon, which is an amazing food, don't get me wrong. But because of all those healthy fats, its protein per calorie score is lower. So the real takeaway here is this. Leanness, not just the source, is what determines the true protein density of your food.
Okay, so now we're going to move beyond food as just basic fuel and get into the really cool stuff. Food as a complex signal. See, certain compounds in the things we eat act like tiny keys, turning major biological switches on and off. They control pretty much everything, from cell growth to cellular cleanup. So the first switch is a protein called mTOR. The easiest way to think about mTOR is like the manager of a factory inside your cells. When nutrients are flooding in, that manager is on the floor yelling, "Go, go, go!" And the factory is in full production. It's building, it's growing, it's storing energy. This is what we call build mode. Now the second switch is AMPK. And if mTOR is the factory manager, AMPK is the factory's energy alarm. When energy starts to run low, like when you're fasting, this alarm goes off. And the very first thing it does is it tells that mTOR manager to go home for the day. Production shuts down and the cleanup crew comes in. This process, called autophagy, starts recycling old, broken parts and repairing the machinery. This is cleanup mode.
So you've got these two forces that are basically opposites. mTOR is build mode, and it gets turned on by nutrients. AMPK is cleanup mode, and it gets turned on by a lack of nutrients. You absolutely need both to be healthy. The problem is, in our modern world, with food available all the time, many of us have mTOR switched on almost 24/7. That means the cleanup crew never gets a chance to do its job.
And this whole signaling idea applies to our hormones too. Let's take cortisol and testosterone. Cortisol is your main stress hormone. When it's high, it actively shuts down testosterone production. They have this direct inverse relationship. You could even say they're biological enemies. So any food signal that helps lower your cortisol is, indirectly, making room for your testosterone to rise.
So just how powerful can these food signals be? Well, this number is pretty wild. A study found that people who drank pomegranate juice every day for just 2 weeks saw their testosterone levels jump by an average of 24%. Think about that. That's a huge hormonal shift from a simple fruit juice. And it's all because the compounds in it help lower cortisol and reduce stress in the body.
Okay, so we've got food as energy and food as a signal. The big question now is, how do we actually use this information? Let's take all this theory and turn it into a simple, actionable game plan. Here are some of the most powerful food signals you can start using right away. The compounds in black coffee and green tea directly flip on that AMPK switch, kicking off cellular cleanup. Extra virgin olive oil, it supports that whole process, and it's a key building block for healthy hormones. We already talked about how garlic and pomegranate can help manage cortisol. Turmeric helps get that recycling process started, and then you have foods like oysters and spinach that provide the raw materials, zinc and magnesium, that these hormone signals need to even work in the first place.
And this brings up another incredible idea: food synergy. It's not just about what you eat, but how you eat it. Take turmeric, for example. Its active compound, curcumin, is amazing, but our bodies are actually pretty bad at absorbing it. But if you add just a little bit of black pepper, a compound in the pepper called piperine, can boost the absorption of that curcumin by up to 2,000%. 2,000! It's an amazing example of how foods can work together.
So putting it all together, a daily system could look this simple. You could start your morning with a black coffee, sending that first cleanup signal of the day. Then, with your first meal, you drizzle on some high-quality extra virgin olive oil. Maybe have a cup of green tea in the afternoon to keep that AMPK signal going. And then throughout the day, you just make a point to toss in other signal foods, like garlic, onions, or even capers. See, it's not about some crazy restrictive diet. It's about strategically adding powerful information to the food you're already enjoying.
So it all comes back to this one simple idea. Every single bite is an instruction. It's telling your body what to do: to build, to clean up, to crank up one hormone and dial down another. And once you really get that, you realize you have so much more control over your own health. So the question we're left with isn't just, what am I eating? It's, what am I telling my body to do? Right now, today.